With the pace of news, today it's the possibility of a government shutdown, it's easy to forget the strained relations with Canada. Canadians haven't forgotten, though, and we're seeing that in the data. Fewer Canadian visitors, boycotts of U.S. goods at Canadian supermarkets, houses and apartments in the U.S. owned by Canadians up for sale. Meanwhile, local leaders on both sides of the border are just trying to find a path forward. Earlier this month, they broke bread on a cruise ship in waters shared by Vermont and Quebec. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Morja Wealth Management, serving the North Country for 3 generations. MorjaWM.com. Securities offered through Hightower Securities, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC. Hightower is an SEC-registered investment advisor. And Kinney Drugs, whose pharmacists offer routine seasonal vaccines for older adults, including senior dose influenza, COVID, RSV, and pneumonia. Details at KinneyDrugs.com.
Hey, I'm David Summerstein. It's Tuesday, September 30th, the last day to get the let out, if you so choose. First up, a murder suspect who was captured in the Adirondacks last Friday after his girlfriend was found dead appeared in Albany County Court yesterday. Emily Russell reports on the charges filed against Anthony Bechand.
On Monday afternoon, Anthony Bechand was escorted into Albany County Court. His hands were cuffed in front of him, and he was wearing all orange. According to the Albany Times-Union, Bechand is being charged with second-degree murder, first-degree burglary, and evidence tampering. In court on Monday, he pleaded not guilty to all charges. 53-year-old Bechand was arrested last Friday in connection with the murder of his girlfriend, 41-year-old Amanda Rodriguez, who originally grew up in Malone. The two lived together in Cohoes. She was found stabbed to death at their home on Sunday, September 14th. Later that day, Bechand's truck was found abandoned 150 miles north near Paul Smith's. He evaded police for 12 days, sparking a widespread manhunt before being captured just a few miles from where he left his truck. On Monday, the district attorney's office in Albany asked that Bechand be held without bail, citing a flight risk. According to the Times-Union, Bechand's attorney plans to make a formal bail application in the future. The victim, Amanda Rodriguez, was buried in Malone over the weekend. Emily Russell, North Country Public Radio.
A historic building in Watertown that was vacant for years has been renovated into a new housing and education center. The first floor of the Globe building is now being used by the Jefferson and Lewis BOCES training programs. The second floor was refurbished into 11 market-rate apartments. The project was funded by New York's Downtown Revitalization Initiative, as well as investments from the Watertown and North Country Development Authorities. The Globe building is more than 100 years old. In a statement, Watertown Mayor Sarah Pierce celebrated the renovation, which she said turned the blighted building into a vibrant hub. New York State Attorney General Letitia James is turning to a national group to help fund her legal defense against a Justice Department probe. Jimmy Vielkind reports for the New York Public News Network.
James will tap a fund set up by the Democratic Attorneys General Association. The group says it's stepping up to defend elected prosecutors targeted by President Trump. It's a sign the legal pressure on James is rising. Trump administration officials say James made false statements on mortgage applications for her Brooklyn brownstone and a home in Virginia. The president recently said on social media that James was, quote, guilty as hell and should be prosecuted. James and her attorneys say the allegations are baseless and politically motivated. James's office won a roughly $500 million judgment against the president and his company that is currently under appeal. In Albany, I'm Jimmy Vielkind for the New York Public News Network.
The North Country's relationship with Canada has always been tight, one of neighbors, even family, far different than that of a typical foreign country. But that relationship has never been more stressed due to President Donald Trump's tariffs and his regular challenges to Canada's sovereignty, calling it the 51st state. Vermont is feeling that tension as well as the North Country. And state leaders there are doing their best to maintain ties. On a perfect late summer day in Newport last week, officials from Quebec and Vermont gathered on Lake Memphremagog for a little cruise ship diplomacy. Vermont Public's Peter Hirschfeld reports.
Watch your head, the lake's low. Watch your head, the lake's low.
This 2-hour cruise to the U.S.-Canada border was hosted by the Vermont Agency of Commerce. And the passenger list included elected officials, municipal leaders, trade representatives, and business owners from Quebec and Vermont.
Bonjour, bienvenue. Hello, thank you. Really appreciate everyone coming today.
Deputy Secretary of Commerce Tate Brooks emphasized the importance of Vermont's business relationship with Canada and the heightened value of personal relationships in this complicated political environment.
Because we have an opportunity to hear and learn from Canadians, and we like to hope that Canadians certainly hear and learn from what we have to say as well.
Vermont, though, is contending with some powerful undercurrents that will be difficult to counteract. René Sylvestre is Quebec's delegate to New England.
You have to understand, we went from, let's say, a year ago, from unconditional trust to, hold on a second, it's more transactional.
Surveys show that confidence among Canadian businesses in the U.S. market has plummeted over the last 8 months. Sylvestre says he worries it'll get worse before it gets better.
Quite concerned. I really believe that we haven't seen nothing yet.
The 30 or so people aboard the boat spent most of the trip mingling over finger sandwiches and potato salad. As the vessel floated directly atop the U.S.-Canada border, Marianne Donderand, who represents the Compton-Stanstead district in the Parliament of Canada, offered optimism for the future.
And it starts from here. It starts from grassroots, and we can go through it together.
But Donderand says Canadians are hurt, and in some cases, angry.
It's a change in the relationship that we have currently between the States and Canada. It's kind of being betrayed by a friend.
Officials on both sides of the border say the economies of Canada and the United States are too intertwined to abandon the relationship. But Bernadette Jordan, the Consul General of Canada in Boston, says U.S. foreign policy has created a level of uncertainty that Canadian businesses will be inclined to avoid. She noted that Canada has free trade agreements with 17 other countries.
We have focused primarily on the United States over the last number of years, decades, and I think it's, Canadians are looking at where else they can go and where else they can sell things.
The situation is having a profoundly negative effect on businesses like Track Incorporated. It's an off-road and remote access vehicle seller that has offices in Newport, Wisconsin, and Quebec.
Let go 30% of our staff.
CEO Rick Damaris says it isn't the federal policies themselves that have hurt sales so badly at Track. It's not knowing from one week to the next what's getting tariffed and what's not.
We're just looking for stability. Settle it one way or another. Until then, our customers don't want to buy, our suppliers don't want to invest, so we're stuck in the middle.
Tim Tierney is the acting commissioner of the Vermont Department of Economic Development. He says the state is finding ways to sustain critical business relationships, thanks in part to the kind of networking going on this cruise. But he acknowledges the difficulty of the path ahead.
The investment has really slowed down on both sides, and I think that's what's is probably the scariest thing, is that if that continuation, people can't work that way. They need to know what's going to happen tomorrow. That's how economics works.
That's Peter Hirschfeld from Vermont Public Reporting. I have a little time left in the show today, so let's try something we haven't done in a while. Let's do a story of the day roll call. Whether you listen by radio or podcast, roll a voice memo on your phone, say who you are, where you live, and what you do while you're listening to the story of the day. How's that? And then email that voice memo to me, david@ncpr.org. So it could sound like this. Hi, this is David Sommerstein from Canton, New York, and I listen to Story of the Day when I'm driving home. It's a great way to catch up on the news and also sort of transition from work to home. Easy peasy. Thanks for giving it a shot. Email that voice memo to me, david@ncpr.org. Music today by Evan Veenstra of Gananoque and David Archibald of Kingston, both Ontarioians and Canadians. Thanks to our neighbors to the north. We salute you. I'm David Sommerstein, North Country Public Radio.